The sky had been calm that morning. The sun rose over the cities of Earth, painting buildings with soft gold light. Birds sang as humans began their daily routines, unaware that this morning would be remembered forever. Then, without warning, shadows stretched across the world. People looked up and gasped. The clouds seemed to bend and shift as massive shapes emerged from the sky. Ships unlike anything seen on Earth hovered silently above cities, oceans, and forests. They were enormous, black, metallic, and glimmering with lights that pulsed like the heartbeat of some giant creature. News channels exploded with live footage. Anchors stammered, trying to describe the shapes. Scientists scrambled to identify the structures. Military forces raised their weapons, but the sense of powerlessness was immediate. No missile, no laser, no fighter jet could even scratch the hulls of these alien ships. From each ship came a soft hum, then a deep vibration that rattled windows and shook the ground. A voice or something like it resonated across the planet. It was not words as humans understood them. The sound filled minds, a strange mixture of emotion and thought. Surrender or face extinction. Panic spread faster than the news. Families clutched each other. People ran into streets. Vehicles collided in chaos. Governments tried to organize, but even the most prepared armies looked small against the vastness of the hovering invaders. Yet, amid the fear, small acts of courage and care emerged. In a quiet town, a little girl named Lena helped a wounded dog limp toward safety. She did not know that the alien scanners were already passing over her village, scanning humans for resistance. Her act of kindness was unnoticed by the invaders, but it was a spark of something greater: humanity. In a remote forest, a lone ranger named Jarek watched as a group of deer froze under the ship's shadow. He noticed something strange. The animals did not panic the way humans did. Wolves paused, studying the humming giants above, and birds flew in coordinated patterns, circling as if communicating silently. Jarek's heart raced. Was it possible the creatures of Earth understood something he could not? Meanwhile, in the ocean, massive whales surfaced, breaching as if to confront the intruders. Their songs, low and resonant, carried across the seas a warning that something primal had awakened. Marine biologists watching from research stations were stunned. The whales' behavior was intelligent, coordinated, and deliberate. Back on land, world leaders held emergency meetings. Cameras broadcast their worried faces. Every nation debated, argued, and feared. The aliens, the Virelians, as they were later named by humanity, did not respond to diplomacy. They did not negotiate. Their message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. Military analysts tried to calculate the invaders' weaknesses. Nothing worked. The ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their energy weapons could obliterate buildings in seconds. Every attempt to strike back ended in failure. Fear grew and hope dwindled. Yet as humanity quivered, subtle signs of resilience began to appear. Farmers in distant lands guided livestock to safe shelters. Firefighters and medics continued their duties despite the threat overhead. People helped neighbors, shared food, and reassured children. Humanity, in the face of terror, showed courage. In one city, a young scientist named Dr. Annika Rao noticed a strange anomaly. Her lab instruments showed that while the Virelians could detect humans, they barely registered the presence of other Earth creatures. Birds, insects, even large mammals were mostly invisible to the alien scanners. Annika's mind raced. Could it be that the invaders had underestimated the planet itself? She tested her theory with a small experiment. Releasing a flock of trained pigeons near the alien scanners, she observed how they moved freely without detection. Excitement coursed through her. Perhaps there was a way for humans to fight back, not alone, but with the creatures of Earth. Across the world, similar observations were reported. In Africa, lions prowled cautiously near alien outposts. In Asia, elephants moved in silent lines, alert and watchful. Even ants seemed to rearrange their colonies, forming complex networks that humans could not fully understand. It was as if life itself was preparing to defend its home. Still, fear dominated human hearts. Cities were under constant surveillance. The Virelians' presence was overwhelming. Schools closed, businesses shut down, and families huddled indoors. Nightfall brought no comfort. The ships glowed like moons, casting eerie light over Earth. In the midst of this chaos, small acts of bravery continued. Lena, the little girl, led stray animals to shelter. Jarek, the ranger, guided villagers to safe paths through forests, avoiding alien patrols. Dr. Rao shared her research with other scientists, hoping that understanding the invaders' weaknesses would give humanity a fighting chance. As hours passed, patterns emerged. The Varelians seemed to focus only on humans. Animals, even in large numbers, were ignored. Birds perched on rooftops watching. Wolves crouched in forests waiting. Whales sang in haunting harmonies. Humanity began to realize that perhaps survival would not come from weapons or technology alone, but from cooperation with the life around them. The first night under alien dominance was tense. Families slept lightly, ears attuned to every vibration. Yet dreams persisted, dreams of unity, courage, and resilience. People imagined standing together with the creatures of Earth, finding strength where fear had dominated. By dawn, news reports shifted slightly. Analysts spoke not only of the threat but also of hope. Videos circulated showing humans saving animals and animals responding intelligently to threats. Slowly, the world began to whisper a new idea. Earth itself was alive in ways humans had not understood. Perhaps the planet had its own defenders. In one small town, children released dozens of pigeons, letting them fly freely above the rooftops. The birds scattered, weaving patterns that were almost messages. In forests, wolves and deer moved in coordinated paths as if signaling their intentions. Whales breached near ships, creating waves that disrupted alien sensors. Even insects acted in swarms, blocking alien drones in unexpected ways. Dr. Rao observed all this with growing amazement. The animals were not simply surviving. They were responding to human action. Humanity's smallest acts of care, pleading, and courage seemed to awaken a larger intelligence. The world was no longer silent in the face of danger. It was speaking back, and the Varelians, for all their power, did not yet understand. They had arrived expecting submission, fear, and obedience. Instead, they were met with something new, the quiet, stubborn, and unpredictable strength of a species that would not surrender, aided by the creatures that had called Earth home long before humans ever walked its lands. As night fell again, the hum of alien ships mixed with the calls of Earth's creatures. A distant wolf howl echoed over mountains, birds murmured in forests, and whales sang in the ocean. Somewhere in the hearts of humans, a new courage was rising, the knowledge that they were not alone in defending their planet. The first part of humanity's story, the beginning of a battle not just of strength but of spirit, had begun. And as the world held its breath, one truth became clear. Earth itself would not let its children fall without a fight. The people of Earth, small and fragile against the alien might, were learning that courage was not just in weapons but in hearts, in compassion, and in unity with every living thing around them. And in that moment, as the sky glowed with alien lights and the hum of strange engines filled the air, humans understood that something extraordinary was awakening, not just within themselves, but across the entire planet. The story of survival, bravery, and the answer of Earth's creatures had begun. The morning after the arrival of the alien ships, humanity awoke to a strange mixture of fear and determination. Cities were still under the silent gaze of the Varelians, massive ships hovering above like black clouds that blocked the sun. Yet in homes, towns, and forests, humans began to stir, not just in panic but in planning. Military forces around the world were mobilized. Soldiers lined up in streets, tanks rumbled over highways, and jet fighters roared into the sky. But every human heart knew the truth. No weapon they had could match the technology above. The Varelians' ships were nearly invincible. Their energy weapons burned buildings in seconds, and their shields deflected missiles like water. Humanity's traditional strength, its weapons, seemed useless, but humans were not ready to surrender. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers began to study the aliens in secret. Dr. Annika Rao worked around the clock with a team of biologists and programmers. They analyzed the aliens' energy patterns, their movements, and their scanning technology. Then came the observation that would change everything. The Varelians barely acknowledged the presence of Earth's animals. Birds, fish, wolves, and even massive whales moved freely without interference. At first, the idea seemed small, almost foolish. Could humans really fight with animals? Dr. Rao refused to dismiss it. She began small experiments in controlled environments. She released trained pigeons near alien drones. They flew without being detected. She watched wolves in enclosed forests respond to sound cues and move strategically. Even dolphins in large tanks responded to signals. coordinating their movements in ways that suggested intelligence beyond instinct. Meanwhile, humans on the ground began noticing patterns. Farmers and villagers saw animals behaving differently near the alien ships. Deer and antelope moved cautiously, almost as if warning each other. Birds flew in unusual formations, sometimes diving near alien sensors in precise ways. Wolves and foxes traveled in coordinated packs, their paths avoiding detection while observing humans. Nature itself seemed aware of the invaders. Soldiers were skeptical. Captain Marcus Hall, stationed near a major city, shook his head as he watched a flock of birds scatter over a patrolling drone. "It's just chance," he muttered. But when another group of birds disabled a small drone by leading it into power lines, even he had to reconsider. Humanity had always prided itself on intelligence and planning, but here was proof that Earth's creatures had their own form of strategy. Dr. Rao and her team realized that humans could use this advantage. She proposed a radical idea. Instead of fighting alone, humanity should coordinate with the animals of Earth. It was a dangerous plan, but it was better than standing helpless. The first attempts were small. Villagers released flocks of birds to observe alien patrols. Wolves were guided to track movement near key locations. Fishermen in coastal towns watched whales respond to signals, surfacing to create waves that disrupted alien scanners. It was imperfect, chaotic, but it worked. Slowly, humans learned to communicate, not in words, but in signals, cues, and gestures that animals could understand. At the same time, scientists studied the aliens themselves. The Varelians moved with precision, yet they had weaknesses. Their sensors were excellent against humans, but less capable of understanding unpredictable behavior from animals. Their strategies relied heavily on analysis and algorithms, which worked well against structured, predictable targets, but not against instinct-driven life. The very unpredictability of Earth's creatures became an unexpected weapon. One night in a hidden forest lab, Dr. Rao watched a wolf pack move silently along the tree line, avoiding alien patrols. She had placed small tracking devices on them, allowing humans to monitor their positions. The wolves reacted to subtle cues, the sound of human footsteps, the movement of birds, even changes in wind direction. It was astonishing. "They're learning from us, and teaching us at the same time," she whispered. In cities, humans began noticing animals reacting to danger long before humans themselves did. Crows would gather in rooftops, cawing loudly as scouts approached. Dogs barked and guided people to hidden paths. Even ants seemed to block alien drones by swarming over sensors. It was as if the planet itself was joining the fight. Captain Marcus Hall began to see the truth. His soldiers were no longer alone. They were part of a larger network that included creatures who had lived on Earth far longer than humans. Using the signals from Dr. Rao's team, Marcus coordinated small strikes that combined human planning and animal instinct. Birds disrupted alien sensors, wolves created diversions, and humans moved in the confusion to gather supplies and rescue civilians. But coordination was not easy. Animals could not understand complex human instructions, and humans could not predict every move. Mistakes happened. A misdirected wolf pack trampled a supply cache. Birds flew in the wrong direction, alerting alien drones. Each mistake taught a lesson, and slowly humans learned to adapt, combining intelligence with instinct. In one coastal city, a dramatic example unfolded. Alien drones patrolled near the docks, ready to strike. Human engineers signaled to whales offshore, using low-frequency sounds. The whales responded, surfacing and creating enormous waves that disrupted the drone's sensors. Seizing the moment, soldiers moved along hidden paths, rescuing trapped civilians. Birds overhead acted as scouts, guiding humans safely past enemy lines. It was a victory of coordination, not sheer force. As these small successes multiplied, humanity began to change. People realized that strength was not only in technology or weapons, but in connection, with each other, and with the life around them. The planet was no longer just a home, it was an ally. Children, who often watched the birds and squirrels, became quick messengers and observers. Farmers guided herds strategically. Scientists like Dr. Rao taught humans to understand animal signals, turning instinct into an advantage. Even in the face of these victories, fear remained. The Varelians still controlled the skies. Their ships could crush buildings in minutes. Their energy beams could obliterate humans if miscalculated. But for the first time, hope was tangible. Humans had discovered a way to fight back. not by defeating the aliens with weapons alone, but by using the intelligence, courage, and coordination of Earth's creatures. In forests and cities, a silent communication spread. Humans and animals began to sense each other's intentions. Wolves led humans to hidden shelters. Birds relayed messages across rooftops. Dolphins and whales moved strategically in waterways. Even insects in swarming patterns disrupted alien scanning drones. The natural world was alive in ways humans had only just begun to understand. Dr. Rao marveled at the growing connection. It was more than strategy, it was partnership. Humanity was no longer fighting alone. Every act of kindness, every plea for help, was answered by the creatures of Earth. They were allies, teachers, and protectors, working with humans to defend their shared home. The Varelians, meanwhile, were confused. Their algorithms failed to account for instinct-driven coordination. They expected resistance from humans, from technology, from predictable behavior, but not from the planet itself. Every time humans acted with animals, alien strikes failed or misfired. It was a revelation. Strength came not just from machines or weapons, but from unity and intelligence in forms they had not predicted. Captain Marcus Hall watched a wolf pack guide villagers through the outskirts of the city. Soldiers and civilians alike were awed by the animal's skill. "We're not alone," he said quietly. "This planet, it's fighting with us." As night fell, humans and animals alike rested, knowing that the next day would bring more challenges. But for the first time, people slept with a sense of purpose. They were learning, adapting, and discovering a new kind of strength, one that combined human ingenuity with the wisdom and instinct of Earth's creatures. Dr. Rao stood on a hill, looking at the glowing alien ships in the distance. Birds flew past her, moving in carefully observed patterns. Wolves howled in forests far below. Whales' songs carried across the oceans. The planet itself was alive, awake, and ready. And humanity understood something profound. They did not fight alone. Every creature on Earth had a role to play, and together, they formed a network of defense that no alien machine could fully comprehend. The Varelians might have expected fear and submission, but instead, they were met with coordination, intelligence, and courage. Humans were discovering that the true power of Earth was not in its cities, weapons, or machines. It was in its life. Every living being, big or small, could contribute. Hope was growing. Resistance was forming. Humanity was no longer powerless, and the creatures of Earth were beginning to answer every plea for help. The battle had only just begun, but for the first time, humans felt something they had not felt in centuries, a sense of unity with their planet, and a belief that together, they might survive anything, even the mightiest invaders in the galaxy. The sun rose over the world, casting golden light across cities, forests, and oceans. The alien ships, the Varelians, still hovered overhead, silent and imposing. Humans had learned to move cautiously, using shadows, forests, and even underground tunnels to avoid detection. But the real change was happening not just in human hearts, but across the planet itself. Dr. Annika Rao and her team had made the first breakthrough. Humans could communicate with animals, in a way. It was not words as humans spoke, but signals, gestures, and sounds that animals seemed to understand. A wolf could follow a pattern of hand gestures. Birds could respond to whistles and movements. Whales could be guided using low-frequency tones. At first, it was simple. Birds acted as scouts, flying over alien patrols to observe movements. Wolves and foxes created diversions, leading patrols away from villages. Dolphins and whales guided humans safely along rivers and coasts. Ants and other insects disrupted alien sensors in swarming, coordinated attacks. Each success was small, but it built confidence. Captain Marcus Hall watched these efforts with amazement. Soldiers had learned to trust the creatures around them. "It's not just humans fighting anymore," he said to his second-in-command. "The planet itself is our ally." In one daring mission, humans tested this new communication. A small team, led by Marcus, had to rescue civilians trapped in a city under direct alien surveillance. Birds scouted ahead, relaying the positions of patrols. Wolves created paths through debris and distracted alien drones. Engineers signaled dolphins offshore, and whales created waves that disrupted alien scanners. The humans moved quickly, efficiently, and safely. Civilians were rescued, and not a single person was harmed. Dr. Rao watched the operation remotely. "It's working," she whispered. They're learning from us and we're learning from them. It's cooperation on a scale we've never imagined. But it was not just about movement or diversion. The animals were intelligent in ways humans could barely measure. Wolves could anticipate alien patrol patterns. Birds could signal danger before humans even noticed it. Whales and dolphins seemed to understand timing and strategy. Even small creatures like ants could coordinate complex actions that humans struggled to replicate. Humans began to realize that survival depended on trust. Trust between humans and animals. Trust between humans themselves and trust in the intelligence of Earth itself. For centuries, humans had believed themselves the smartest creatures on the planet. Now they understood that intelligence came in many forms, and that the combined effort of life on Earth could outthink even the most advanced alien technology. In forests, children played a small but important role. They observed birds, mimicked their calls, and learned subtle patterns. Farmers used livestock not just for food, but as messengers and guides. Even city pets became part of the network, barking, meowing, and moving strategically to signal danger. Meanwhile, the Varelians struggled. Their scanning technology could detect humans, predict human behavior, and adapt quickly. But animals were unpredictable. The aliens' algorithms failed against instinct, intuition, and cooperation among species. A single wolf pack could disrupt patrols. A flock of birds could confuse sensors. Whales could block entire waterways. Every time humans coordinated with animals, alien attacks faltered. In one notable event, a large alien patrol moved toward a coastal city. Humans and animals had prepared a complex defense. Birds scouted the patrol, flying in intricate patterns to guide humans. Wolves created controlled distractions, leading drones into empty streets. Dolphins and whales acted in perfect timing, surfacing and creating waves that confused the alien sensors. When humans moved through the city, every step was guided, every move calculated. By the time the patrol realized the pattern, the humans were long gone and not a single civilian was harmed. The success was not without mistakes. A miscommunication with wolves led a patrol closer to a village than intended. Birds sometimes flew too early or too late. Humans had to learn patience, observation, and adaptation. Dr. Rao often reminded her team, "The animals are our teachers. Watch them, learn from them. Move with them, not against them." This lesson spread across the world. People began to observe nature more carefully. They noticed how deer moved in the forests, how birds communicated danger, and how marine animals coordinated in groups. Humans began to understand that survival was not just about technology or weapons. It was about connection, awareness, and harmony with life itself. In another daring mission, a city under heavy alien occupation needed food and medicine. Human teams coordinated with animals for delivery. Wolves led teams through forests to avoid detection. Birds scouted and guided routes. Even ants carried small items, forming moving lines to transport essential supplies. The mission succeeded, showing that even the smallest creatures could make a difference. Captain Marcus Hall reflected on the changes. "We used to think strength was in numbers or weapons," he said. "Now we know strength is in connection with each other, and with every living thing around us." Soldiers nodded, realizing that bravery was not just fighting, it was observing, learning, and trusting. Meanwhile, Dr. Rao worked on improving human-animal communication. She developed simple devices that amplified signals between humans and creatures. Low-frequency sounds allowed whales to move in coordination with distant humans. Light signals helped birds relay messages across cities. Small mechanical devices could guide ants and insects in patterns that disrupted alien sensors. Technology and nature were now allies, working together against a common threat. The Varelians began to notice something unsettling. Their patrols were failing not because humans were weak, but because humans had allies the aliens could not control. The unpredictability of Earth's creatures was more dangerous than any weapon. Every time humans coordinated with animals, the aliens' strategy failed. Confusion spread among the invaders. In forests, plains, and oceans, the creatures of Earth continued to act intelligently. Wolves observed and anticipated, birds guided and warned, dolphins and whales disrupted and protected, and even insects worked in swarms to obstruct alien technology. Humanity's pleas for help were being answered not with words but with action. Humans, inspired by these successes, became bolder. Small cities were liberated with minimal confrontation. Civilians were moved to safety using coordinated human-animal efforts. The alien ships, though still powerful, began to struggle against this new kind of resistance, a resistance that no one had anticipated, and no weapon could fully suppress. In one coastal town, a young boy named Eli guided a group of children through a forest path, following signals from birds overhead. Wolves patrolled ahead, ensuring no alien patrol could sneak up. Dolphins and whales created distractions along the river, confusing alien drones. By the end of the day, the children were safely brought to a hidden village where families were reunited. It was a small victory, but it meant everything to those involved. Dr. Rao watched and smiled. Humanity was no longer passive. The animals had become partners, allies, and protectors. Every act of courage, every plea for help was now answered. The planet itself seemed alive, aware, and ready to fight. Even the Varelians began to sense something different. Their scans and predictions could not account for instinctive coordination. Their patrols, once precise and unstoppable, now faced delays, errors, and confusion. The aliens realized that Earth's inhabitants, human and animal alike, were working together in ways that algorithms could not predict. Captain Marcus Hall and his team planned the next step. The victories were small, but the lessons were clear. Strength did not come only from machines or weapons. It came from unity, intelligence, and cooperation. Humans and animals together had become more powerful than anyone had imagined. As night fell, humans and animals alike rested. Wolves curled near fires, birds perched quietly on rooftops, and whales sang their haunting songs across the ocean. Humans reflected on the day's victories and failures. Each mistake was a lesson, each success a promise. Dr. Rao looked out over the city skyline, now partially lit by moonlight and faint alien glows. She knew the Varelians would not give up easily. Their power was enormous, their technology advanced. But humans had something no alien algorithm could predict: courage, adaptability, and allies in every corner of the Earth. The bond between humans and animals grew stronger every day. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about understanding, respect, and connection. The planet itself was fighting, and humans were learning to move as part of its great network. In that quiet moment, Dr. Rao whispered, "We are not alone. The Earth answers us, and together we will find a way." The battle had reached a new stage. Humans were no longer passive observers, and animals were no longer silent witnesses. Together, they had begun to form a defense unlike any in the universe. The Varelians had arrived expecting fear, but they found coordination, strategy, and a connection that could not be broken. The world was waking up to a truth humans had long forgotten. Survival did not depend solely on power, but on unity, with each other, and with every living creature that called Earth home. And in that awakening, hope grew. The story of humanity's fight, aided by the creatures of Earth, was just beginning, but it was already becoming legendary. The world had changed. Cities that once stood proudly now bore the scars of alien observation, and forests whispered of the growing resistance. Humans had learned that survival depended not only on their ingenuity, but also on the creatures of Earth. Birds, wolves, whales, and even small insects had become allies, their instincts guiding humanity through danger. Captain Marcus Hall looked over the city from a hilltop. Drones hovered over the streets, scanning for movement, but Marcus's soldiers moved with new confidence. Wolves had patrolled ahead, scouting and signaling, while crows flew overhead, directing soldiers along safe paths. The humans were no longer powerless. They had learned the rhythm of Earth, moving in sync with its creatures. Dr. Annika Rao coordinated operations from a mobile laboratory. She had developed a network of signals that allowed humans to communicate with animals over long distances. Whales could respond to low-frequency tones, guiding ships and boats away from danger. Birds relayed messages across rooftops, carrying warnings faster than any radio could transmit. Even ants, guided by tiny devices, formed patterns that blocked alien drones or damaged equipment. The first major strike of coordinated resistance was planned in a coastal city. The Varelians had established a command outpost there, using it to monitor surrounding regions. Humans could not attack directly. Their weapons were too weak, but with animals as allies, they could disrupt the outpost. The plan began at dawn. Birds flew in flocks, creating patterns that misled the alien scanners. Wolves and foxes moved along the streets, herding humans safely into hidden paths. Dolphins and whales patrolled offshore, creating waves and noise that interfered with alien sensors. Even the smallest insects were part of the strategy, swarming around drones and short-circuiting machinery. Captain Hall and his team moved cautiously, following the signals. Civilians had been evacuated in advance, guided by wolves and birds. Engineers used small devices to enhance the animals' coordination, creating a network of communication that stretched across the city. It was risky, but it was humanity's first chance to strike without weapons. As the operation unfolded, the Varelians began to respond. Drones moved faster, attempting to detect humans, but the creatures' instinctive movements were unpredictable. Birds dropped small, heavy objects to damage alien sensors. Wolves led humans along routes the aliens had not anticipated. Dolphins guided boats with precision, moving through channels that alien patrols thought were blocked. The aliens had power, but they did not have instinct, creativity, or unpredictability. Every move they made was calculated for a static environment. Humans working with animals created chaos in their calculations. The outpost, once a symbol of fear, was now vulnerable. Sensors failed, alarms went off at random, and the alien drones were misdirected. Inside the command outpost, a Varelian officer struggled to understand what was happening. The humans, they are moving with the creatures. Their patterns, they are not predictable. He communicated rapidly with his fleet, but their algorithms could not adjust to instinct-driven coordination. The invaders had underestimated the power of life itself. By midday, the operation had succeeded beyond expectations. Humans had infiltrated key areas, disabling equipment and gathering valuable information. Not a single soldier had been lost. Wolves, birds, dolphins, and even small creatures had acted as both guides and protectors, responding to humans' cues while following their instincts. Dr. Rao and her team celebrated quietly. The operation proved that Earth's creatures were more than allies, they were partners. Every success built confidence, and humanity began to see a path forward. They were no longer merely surviving, they were fighting back. In another region, a forested valley became the scene of a clever defensive maneuver. A small village was under threat from a Varelian patrol. Humans had no weapons strong enough to attack directly, but they had coordination and ingenuity. Wolves formed lines that guided humans into hidden paths. Birds dropped objects to distract drones. Even insects were guided to short-circuit patrol sensors. The aliens' patrol was delayed, confused, and eventually forced to retreat. The people of the village were astonished. Children cheered, villagers embraced, and even farmers who had never handled weapons before felt a sense of pride. Humans were learning that courage came not from machines but from understanding, strategy, and unity with life itself. Captain Hall's unit moved to a large city next, planning a complex rescue mission. Civilians trapped in a high-rise were in danger. The city was heavily monitored by alien drones, but humans had learned to read patterns, anticipate movements, and work with Earth's creatures. Birds scouted the streets and rooftops, signaling safe routes. Wolves patrolled the surrounding areas, ready to intervene if needed. Engineers used drones to amplify signals to whales offshore, whose songs disrupted alien sensors. The operation was tense. Every move mattered. Humans and animals acted as one, a network of instinct, intelligence, and courage. Civilians were guided out of danger in groups, moving silently through alleys and streets that had been cleared by animals ahead. When alien patrols approached, the wolves created distractions, and birds swooped to interfere with drones. The humans moved quickly, learning from every signal, every movement, and every instinct around them. By nightfall, the rescue was complete. The city had been preserved, civilians saved, and not a single human was harmed. Word spread quickly. Humans and animals could fight together, and even the mighty Varelians were not invincible. Dr. Rao studied the data collected from the operation. Patterns emerged. The aliens' algorithms struggled against unpredictability, while humans and animals could adapt in real time. The planet itself seemed to respond to every plea for help. Humans realized that strength was not just in technology or weapons, but in coordination, empathy, and connection with life itself. In forests, plains, and oceans, creatures continued to act strategically. Wolves guided humans through dangerous terrain. Birds relayed messages across miles. Whales and dolphins disrupted alien sensors. Even small insects carried out critical tasks that contributed to overall operations. Humanity had learned that the Earth itself could fight, and it was willing to do so. Captain Hall reflected on the changing tide. "We used to think the aliens were unstoppable," he said. "Now we see that our planet, its creatures, and us together, we are stronger than they imagined." Soldiers nodded, inspired by the victories and aware of the battles ahead. The Varelians, meanwhile, grew frustrated. Their patrols failed repeatedly. Their calculations, precise and methodical, could not predict the actions of instinct-driven animals. Every time humans moved with creatures, the aliens were misled, delayed, or forced to retreat. Confidence within the invader ranks began to falter. They had expected fear and submission, but found coordination, strategy, and intelligence that they had never encountered. In a remote research station, Dr. Rao coordinated her next plan. Humans would not attack directly. Instead, they would use the planet itself as a weapon. Birds would continue to scout, wolves would create diversions, and whales would disrupt alien sensors at sea. Humans would move in synchrony, striking only where necessary. The operation would not destroy the alien fleet, but it would prove that humans were no longer helpless. As night fell, humans and animals rested together. Wolves curled near human camps, birds perched on rooftops, and whales sang in deep oceans. Civilians and soldiers alike reflected on the day's victories. Mistakes had been made, lessons learned, but the sense of unity and purpose was stronger than ever. Captain Hall looked at the stars above, where alien ships glowed faintly. "They thought they could intimidate us," he said quietly. "They were wrong. We have the planet on our side, and together, we are unstoppable." Dr. Rao smiled, watching signals from birds, wolves, and dolphins. The creatures of Earth had answered humanity's plea. They had acted with courage, intelligence, and precision. Humans had learned to work with them, not just beside them. Strength was no longer measured by weapons alone, but by unity and connection. The turning tide had begun. Humans were no longer merely survivors. They were fighters, strategists, and allies of the planet itself. The Varelians had underestimated the unpredictability, courage, and coordination of Earth's inhabitants. Their power was vast, but it could not overcome the intelligence and cooperation of life itself. And so, as the night deepened, humans and animals alike prepared for the next day. Plans were made, signals were tested, and courage was renewed. Every living creature, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, had a role to play. Together, they formed a network that no alien could destroy. The battle was far from over, but for the first time humans knew they could win. The Varelians had arrived expecting fear. Instead, they had found strategy, unity, and a determination stronger than any weapon. Earth was fighting back. Humanity was no longer alone, and the creatures of the planet were proving that survival, courage, and victory belonged not just to humans, but to every living being that called Earth home. The turning tide had arrived, and the story of humanity's resilience and partnership with the creatures of Earth was only just beginning. The sun rose on the 5th day of the Varelians' occupation, casting golden light over a planet that had begun to fight back. Humans moved with confidence now. Soldiers, scientists, children, and civilians alike had learned to work with Earth's creatures in ways that no alien could predict. The balance of power had shifted, and the Varelians felt it. The massive alien ships hovered silently above the cities, their once imposing presence now tinged with uncertainty. Patrols moved cautiously, no longer confident in their dominance. Drones were disrupted, communications jammed, and patterns failed. The invaders were not used to unpredictability. They had expected obedience, fear, and submission. Instead, they faced a coordinated network of humans and animals that had turned the planet itself into a shield and a weapon. Captain Marcus Hall surveyed the city from a hilltop. Wolves paced alongside his team, alert and ready. Birds flitted between rooftops, carrying messages and warnings. Whales sang in distant oceans, their deep calls resonating across the waves, signaling coordinated moves. Even small insects, guided by humans, disrupted alien scanners in clever ways. Every creature had a role, and humanity had learned to act in harmony with them. "Today, we see if they understand what it means to underestimate Earth," Marcus said to Dr. Annika Rao, who stood beside him. She nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. The plan was bold but simple: show the Varelians the full power of Earth's unity without causing unnecessary destruction. Humans would coordinate with animals to demonstrate intelligence, strategy, and resilience. It was a chance to claim victory not through war, but through understanding, courage, and coordination. At dawn, birds soared in large flocks, moving in intricate patterns that confused the alien drones. Wolves created diversions, guiding humans safely through cities and forests. Dolphins and whales disrupted alien sensors offshore, moving in perfect timing with human operations. Even small insects created swarming disruptions, short-circuiting devices that the aliens relied upon. The entire planet seemed alive, responding to humans' pleas and actions in perfect harmony. The Varelians watched, bewildered. Their scanners detected humans, but they could not account for the unpredictable coordination of instinct and intelligence. The algorithms that had guided their patrols failed repeatedly. Drones collided, sensors misread signals, and the aliens' once precise control faltered. Inside the central command ship, a Varelian officer struggled to understand the new reality. The humans. They are not alone. The creatures, they respond, they act, they coordinate. Our calculations, they fail. Another officer replied in clicks and tones, equally frustrated. For the first time, the invaders felt fear. Not for themselves, but for the control they thought they had. As the day unfolded, humans and animals carried out coordinated actions that left the aliens powerless. In cities, civilians were safely evacuated under the watch of birds and wolves. Forests and plains became guided paths, ensuring that no one was caught by patrols. Offshore, dolphins and whales manipulated currents and waves, rendering alien surveillance ineffective. Insects swarmed in dense clouds, jamming equipment and sensors. By midday, the Varelians sent a message, a direct, unambiguous plea. It was not spoken in words humans could immediately understand, but the intent was clear. Mercy. The alien fleet, for all its power, had no way to overcome the coordination of humans and Earth's creatures. Their strategy had failed. They had underestimated the planet, and now they faced the consequences. Dr. Rao and Captain Hall met with representatives from other human cities to decide how to respond. The Varelians were powerful, yes, but they had shown fear, vulnerability, and willingness to negotiate. The humans could destroy the alien ships, but that was not necessary. Humanity's true victory lay in restraint, understanding, and the ability to defend their planet without vengeance. After careful discussion, humanity made a choice. The Varelians would be spared under strict conditions. They would leave Earth, no longer threaten its inhabitants, and take with them the lesson that strength is not only in technology or weapons, but in coordination, courage, and respect for life. The decision was a testament to humanity's wisdom, compassion, and unity. The aliens, humbled and silent, accepted. They had come seeking dominance, expecting fear and surrender, but they found intelligence, strategy, and cooperation that their algorithms could not predict. Their ships slowly began to rise and depart, leaving cities, forests, and oceans intact. They had learned something profound. Earth's inhabitants, human and animal alike, were not to be underestimated. Across the planet, humans and creatures observed the retreat. Wolves howled in the forests, birds sang in the skies, and whales' songs echoed across oceans. Humans looked at one another with pride and relief. They had survived, not through destruction, but through courage, unity, and partnership with life itself. Captain Marcus Hall stood on a hill, watching the last alien ships disappear into the sky. "We faced the impossible," he said, voice steady but full of emotion. "And we survived. Not alone, but together, with the creatures of this planet." Soldiers and civilians alike nodded, realizing the truth of his words. Dr. Rao looked at the wolves pacing near the hill, the birds circling above and the distant whales' songs carried by the wind. "They answered our pleas," she said softly. "All of them. Every creature, every life, it joined in. Earth fought with us, and we fought with Earth." Children who had participated in small but crucial operations smiled, proud of their contributions. Farmers who had guided herds strategically now understood the true meaning of courage and coordination. Scientists who had studied animal behavior felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Humans had discovered that survival depended not only on themselves, but on understanding, trust, and cooperation with all living creatures. In cities, families reunited. Humans who had been separated by chaos now embraced. Pets, rescued animals, and even wild creatures that had aided the resistance returned to their habitats. A silent acknowledgement of the partnership that had saved the world. Nature itself seemed to breathe easier, calm once more after days of tension. Dr. Rao reflected on the lessons learned. The Varelians had arrived expecting fear. Instead, they had found strategy, adaptability, and unity that no algorithm could overcome. Humans had learned that true strength lay not in weapons or power, but in intelligence, courage, empathy, and partnership with life itself. Captain Hall and Dr. Rao visited villages, cities, and coastal towns where humans and animals had acted together. Each place told a story of bravery, innovation, and unity. Wolves, birds, dolphins, whales, and even insects had played roles in victory. Humans had acted alongside them, guiding, learning, and trusting. The planet had answered humanity's pleas for help, and humans had answered the call to act with courage and wisdom. Even the alien ships that remained in the distance had changed. Their once threatening glow now seemed subdued. They had left Earth carrying with them a lesson they would never forget. Dominance cannot overpower connection, respect, and unity. Life, in all its forms, is far stronger than technology alone. In forests, wolves returned to their territories, moving silently but alert. Birds nested in familiar trees, keeping watch. Dolphins and whales returned to the open ocean, singing long, deep songs. Insects resumed their roles in the ecosystem, no longer manipulated for survival but free to act naturally. Every creature had played a part in humanity's story, and their presence was a reminder of the power of cooperation. As night fell, the skies were clear for the first time in days. Stars shone brightly, unblocked by alien vessels. Humans gathered in quiet reflection, understanding that the world had been changed forever. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, not by destruction but by partnership, courage, and empathy. Captain Hall looked at the horizon, thinking of the battles fought and lessons learned. "We faced fear and we answered it," he said. "Not just with weapons, but with every living thing on this planet. Today we learned what it means to be human, and what it means to fight for life itself." Dr. Rao smiled, looking at the hills, forests, and oceans around them. "The planet itself has a heart," she said, "and we learned to beat with it. That is our true victory." The story of humanity's fight against the Varelians would be told for generations. It was a tale of courage, intelligence, and unity. It was a story of humans who pleaded for survival and found allies in every corner of their world. It was a story of a planet that answered its children's call, and children who answered the planet's call in return. And so, Earth returned to a peaceful rhythm. Humans rebuilt, learned, and strengthened their bond with the creatures that had fought alongside them. Cities grew, forests thrived, oceans sang, and animals roamed freely. Humanity had learned a lesson greater than any science or weapon could teach. Life is strongest when it acts together. The Varelians had come seeking fear and submission. They found courage, strategy, and unity instead. They had pleaded for mercy, and humanity, strengthened by its connection with the planet and its creatures, answered with wisdom, restraint, and compassion. The Earth was safe. Humans were stronger, and life, every life, had proven that together they could face anything the universe could bring.